If you want to stay up to date with all current hip-hop events and releases, make sure to subscribe and become part of this community. Oh, and also, go cop that fresh merch and listen to my new album in the description. A lot of y'all have probably seen this when this came out 2 to 3 days ago, but today I wanted to give my take on, what possibly we could expect from Drake coming up in the future, and also him posting that he's, again, working on new music. So let's jump straight into this. So, the Instagram story, or like the post that I'm talking about, is on Drake's official, Instagram account, Champagne Papi, on March 29th, where he posted a picture of him being in the studio. And this is the same room, the same studio that we know from all these CLB leaks. And this was also the studio that we infamously got that leak for the Travis Scott single Fair Trade from, that a lot of people went crazy about. And we can see that this is exactly almost the same setup, but this time, which is actually the interesting part because that's what people were talking about, we can see that a mic is set up right there in front of him. He could literally just stand up in his Jordan 4s, walk up there, and just, spit. And that's probably what he's also doing now being in the studio. This, of course, raises the question if we are getting new Drake music very soon. Now, a lot of people already speculated. One of the top comments on the Twitter posts from Rap TV on this was somebody saying Champagne Poetry Part 2, let's go. But Drake didn't caption the post or write anything in his story, so it's all up to interpretation and expectations and hopes as to what we will be getting from this studio session. But he is, and this is the important part, he is teasing that he is, dropping new music and working on it right now and possibly dropping it very soon. Of course, there are some speculations, and we talked about this in the Discord after our live stream last week about Drake dropping a Scary Hours 3. That is one possible explanation as to why he could be in the studio, because when you look back at like when the last Scary Hours and then the album following it dropped, we could see that the first Scary Hours dropped, I think it was January of 2019, and then about 6 months later, Scorpion dropped, which was that double disc album that a lot of people liked and also a lot of people hated. And then when you look at CLB, we could see that Scary Hours 2 dropped in March of 2021, and then CLB dropped in September, so also almost exactly 6 months. So it's always like a half year time span between a Scary Hour drop, so an EP drop, to get some singles out there, to get the rotation going again for Drake, and then the big album. So this could potentially lead to some people speculating that we might be getting a Scary Hours 3 very soon in the very near future. And then kind of when you calculate it into the future, when could Drake drop? We always talking about like October, October's very own. And so October is the 10th month, so if you go back 6 months, it will be the 4th month, obviously, so April, so this month, which could be a reason why Drake posted this at the very end of March, teasing that something is coming in April. Of course, last week on April 1st, nothing Drake related drop, also not, any feature or anything. So it's up to a couple of more Fridays this month still that we could be getting some new Drake. And there are still like 4 Fridays in April, so still plenty of time for Drake to announce and then drop a Scary Hours 3. To be specific, just so we have it like noted down and we can refer back to this when the actual album drops, we still have this upcoming Friday, the 7th, or 8th, as the 8th, my bad, as a possible release date, then the 15th, the 22nd, and the 29th. So still 4 Fridays that Drake could possibly drop Scary Hours 3. And of course, if he does, if we kind of go back to what these singles were on the last Scary Hours 1 and 2 that we got, the first Scary Hours was just God's Plan, which was like the big single that also ended up on Scorpion, which was funny. And then the second one was Diplomatic Immunity, which was a much better track by all means than God's Plan, but obviously it didn't receive the commercial success that God's Plan did because God's Plan. You feel me? And when we look at the second Scary Hours, we also had amazing tracks on there. We had What's Next, then also obviously Wants and Needs with Lil Baby, and then Lemon Pepper Freestyle with Rick Ross. So we can see that Drake is always trying to put a single on here that he hopes to do really well commercially. It was God's plan for the first one that just went huge. And then for this one, he kind of couldn't decide between what's next and Wants and Needs. Both have done pretty well. Wants and Needs a little bit better, but those were the two that weren't like lyrically very advanced or like any type of crazy vibe. But, you know, they just did well. There were solid tracks. Baby completely carried Wants and Needs, and they did pretty well. And then we have like a very lyrical track where he's more introspective and knows that that is not gonna, you know, do as well commercially, but the core fans will definitely appreciate stuff like that. On the first Scary Hours, it was Diplomatic Immunity, and on Scary Hours 2, it was a Lemon Pepper Freestyle with Rick Ross. So we can kind of expect the same pattern again to occur on a possible Scary Hours 3, just to go over the basics of what the nature of these Scary Hours, you know, mixtapes, or not even mixtapes, they're like little EPs or like 2-piece, 3-pieces that we were getting. You know, they are always the same structure, one song that is supposed to do very well, and then another one for the core fans, and they always drop about half a year before a big complete studio album, LP, full-length record drops. That is the nature of these Scary Hours EPs, and that's what they've served. That's their purpose that they served over the past 4 years now. So it's only, you know, right to assume that we will likely get something like that in the future as well, if we're talking about a possible Scary Hours 3. And if he's in the studio right now, I think it'll be about, you know, if he's teasing it now, at least, it won't be next week. It won't be the week after. I'm guessing the 22nd or 29th will probably be the dates that we could expect a new Drake record or EP to drop, Scary Hours 3. Could also be May, just, you know, get some songs out there for the summer. But I am very confidently expecting a Scary Hours 3 to drop sometime in the first half of this year, just so that he can then tease and announce an album later on in the year. Because after CLB, this man needs to drop at least a more solid record that doesn't seem as half-assed as CLB was. Y'all know my opinion on that. We've talked about and argued about that very much so ever since September of last year. So that is my expectations for Scary Hours 3, kind of going over what these EPs' purpose is and what they serve as, and also when we can expect a new Scary Hours 3 EP to drop, and then the album coming later on this year. If we get any more news on new Drake stuff, any announcement on Scary Hours 3 or anything like that, I'll be sure to keep y'all updated, so make sure you stay subscribed. But until then, let me know what y'all think about this. Do y'all think we're getting a Scary Hours 3? What do you think these EPs even serve as? What do you think that he's dropping a big album later on this year? Do you think that these Scary Hours EPs just serve as like the opener for these big albums? And what tracks do you expect on a Scary Hours 3? All of that, please let me know in the comments down below. If you watched this video to the end and liked it, and you want to stay up to date with all current hip-hop events and releases, make sure to subscribe, turn on notifications, hit that like button, and go follow my social media, and most importantly, join my Discord in the description. Until the next one, you'll have an incredible day, and y'all take care.